Okay, hello, it's Paul Green from the business community doing another one of our regular Spotlight on interviews. And today I'm joined by Paul Simpson from Tax Assist Accountants. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Paul.
So, two Pauls today. So we're going to sort of pry into Paul's business journey. He's going to share some tips with us later. So before we do that, Paul, do you just want to introduce yourself and let people know who you are and what you do?
Hello, good morning. Paul Simpson from Tax Assist Accountants in Market Harborough. We also have our offices in Lutterworth and Blaby. We are an accountancy and tax advice firm that works the way that you want to work today. So we use a huge amount of technology, spend a lot of time with our clients, getting them used to the technology. So it's taking the pain out of their bookkeeping, really.
Okay, excellent. So this is a new business to you, but you've been in business before. So do you just want to tell us a little bit about your business journey and where you got to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I left school at 18, decided not to do the usual route and go to university, became a management trainee for Midland Bank, as it was then. Spent 3.5 years with them as a management trainee, passed all my banking exams and became a chartered banker. Then left and went to William & Glyn's, which very soon thereafter became RBS. Did another 5 years with them, and then went into financial advice. Had a friend at the bank that her husband was a sales manager for the great Prudential, and he said, I think you'd be a good financial consultant. So then I spent 3 years knocking doors, collecting premiums, selling insurance, selling pensions, selling car insurance, house insurance, a bit of investments, doing a bit of mortgage work. But then I decided that it would probably be better trying selling lots of companies' products rather than just one company's. So I became an independent financial advisor in 1996. Spent 10 years with a firm in Market Harborough, actually, helping him build a business. Went off and set my own firm up in 2006, which is called Wellington Financial Management, and some people might remember. That traded for about 5 years, and then I merged it with a company called Sterling McCall, which was subsequently taken over by the mighty Tavistock Group in 2014. And I left in 2019. Well, I retired. I retired in 2019, and Tavistock bought my client bank.
Okay, so you obviously came out of retirement. So were you getting a bit bored, Paul, or what was the decision there?
Well, in a word, yes. I retired in June 2019. Then I spent probably about 3 to 4 months I had over 300 clients, handing them all over to the new advisor that took over from me. With the intention then of doing lots of cycling, which is one of my hobbies, being involved a bit more in Freemasonry, which is another one of my hobbies, doing lots of charity work. I became treasurer of the local U3A, carried on doing my Masonic work, cycled 6,000 miles in 2020. Of course, that was all during lockdown mainly. Got to October 2020, I got to age 55 and thought, you know what, I think there's more to life than cycling around the lanes of Leicestershire and doing good for charity. So I was looking for another challenge, and I came across Tax Assist. I've seen Tax Assist before. I knew of them. So I attended one of their, what they call Discovery Days, which of course was all online. Liked what I heard. They liked what they heard from me. They said they're just the sort of person they're looking for. So that's it. And the rest, as they say, is history.
But rather than buy one franchise, because they're franchise operation, aren't they? You decided to buy 3.
Well, I bought one territory, which covers 3 postcodes.
Got you.
So, so the main office at the moment is in Market Harborough. That only opened 3 months. Well, it only opened five weeks ago.
Yeah.
We've also got virtual offices at the moment in Lutterworth and Blaby, and the intention is to have full physical offices in Lutterworth and in Blaby too, and then expand into adjoining postcodes. So we've got 3 postcodes at the moment. Then we'll buy up other postcodes and have offices there, assuming of course that we've got the clients to actually sustain those type of businesses.
Sure. So just had a comment from Neil saying that's some career to date, Paul. So a fellow cycler there. I don't know whether you've been cycling with Neil, but he likes his cycling as well.
No, not yet. I've not been cycling with Neil. We're going tomorrow. We're having a one-to-one networking meeting on 2 wheels. Well, 4 between us. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see whether I can keep up with the young whippersnapper.
Okay, so on your journey, then, was there anything else you considered whilst you were looking around, sort of like see what you could do coming out of retirement? Was there anything else you looked at?
Yeah, there was. I mean, when I was an independent financial advisor, I spent I developed a system whereby I was basically the client's trusted advisor in lots of areas. So I used to do their tax returns for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing tax returns for personal clients for 20 years or so. I also used to do their wills and the trusts and lasting power of attorneys and funeral plans and probate work for them. So when I retired as an IFA, I carried on the trust planning, the wills, lasting power. So I did that throughout the most of 2020, and it was a relatively successful business. I was only doing it part-time, maybe 1-2 days a week, just as the work came along. But the problem with that type of business is it's very transactional, and you're not really building any asset value at all. So I was looking really more for a business where you can actually build an asset value. So yeah, that's why accountancy ticked all the boxes, really, because it's something you can actually build. It can be a legacy, and it's actually something that I can physically sell in the future.
Yeah. Is that tax assist model that they get people to invest, and then after 5 or 10 years, then
well, no, not really. No, I mean their business model is such that they bring in accountants, business owners to run tax assist franchises. A lot of the tax assist franchises have been with them for a long time. I mean, tax assist started in 1996, and a lot of the franchisees have been with them for over 20 years. And have got very successful businesses. Just maybe one shop or a shop and an office or something, maybe 2 shops. So yeah, their business model suits lots of things, but it certainly suits my objective, which is building a business and then selling it on to the people within the business. I'm not looking at selling it externally. I'm looking at actually creating a team around me and actually to sell it to them, and that process has started already. Although we're only sort of 3 months into the whole process, I've already recruited my first team members, of which I hope will actually be, in 5 years' time, the future business owners.
Excellent. So from what I know about tax assist, and you mentioned it's shop, it is very much that sort of getting a location that has footfall, that people are likely to come in. So are you dealing with mainly personal clients, or is it business clients, or is it a mix of people for their accountancy needs?
Yeah, the reason for having the shop front location is because we like to get involved in the local community. So most of the work we do is around small businesses. We one of our strap lines is the small business champions. So small businesses is anything up to 2 million in turnover, which is not that small actually. But for instance, we don't do audit or anything like that. But so yeah, we're focused very much on small businesses, on sole traders, people running their own limited companies, personal tax, property landlords, which is what we do a lot of. We've got some skills. I've got quite a lot of skills in the property landlord and holiday let type arena. So yeah, it's smaller clients, personal clients, small businesses.
Okay, lovely, jubbly. So I ask people on these calls, what's your why? I'm not sure whether you're familiar with Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And really it's about, what's the driving force behind you, what gets you out of bed each morning, what's the motivation that keeps you going to fight the good fight. So what would you say your why is, if that makes sense?
Well, my why, I have to get out of bed in the morning because the shop opens at 9 o'clock. So that gets me out of bed, although I've got a very efficient receptionist who will open up for me anyway. My why is I want to make a difference to people's lives. And I think I did that fairly successfully as an IFA. I became a trusted advisor to them, and that's what I want to replicate in the accountancy profession. I want to become a trusted accountant. I want to work with people. I want to help people actually realise a business of their dreams. I've been relatively successful in business, in building businesses in the past, merging businesses, taking over businesses, selling businesses. So I want to use that knowledge and that the skills, whatever they are, that I have, to actually help other people along their business journey, to help them grow their businesses, help them, have the business of their dreams, and sell it, and ultimately sell their business if that's what they want to do. Spend more time with the family, spend more time on holiday, spend more time working on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I can endorse that. So there's other accountants out there, other bookkeepers out there. From what you shared in networking, it sounds like it's gone very well for you so far. What do you think distinguishes you then from the competitors out there? Why would people choose you guys versus another firm down the street?
I think we're open. We have shopfront locations. We're open. You're encouraged to walk into us just like any other shop, and you'll be seen there and then when we'll be able to deal with your inquiry. So we're a one-stop shop, if you like. We're accessible. I make myself accessible. My mobile phone is always on. Yes, we're open 9 to 5 in the shop, but we're accessible at other times. We use technology heavily. There's some major changes coming up in the accountancy profession. HMRC are driving it with making tax digital. Making tax digital for VAT returns is already here. Making tax digital for income tax returns is going to be here in the next few years, which means you're going to have to submit an income tax return 4 times a year. So we've embraced the technology, and we feel at the forefront of being able to do that. There's going to be a lot of accountancy firms in the future that either have to transition their business model completely to make it similar to the tax assist business model, or ultimately retire and exit, which would be obviously a great loss, because there's lots of people out there with lots of technical knowledge. But the way of the world is such that technology is going to drive the accountancy profession. So that's where we think our sweet spot is, really, that we can embrace the technology that's there, get it so that it's working for the client, so the client's not spending hours and hours on their bookkeeping. They can spend that time on their business.
Okay. And you obviously started the business whilst we're still emerging out of a pandemic, or trying to. What was your thoughts behind that? Did it occur to you to sort of wait till after the pandemic was done, or were you too far down the line that you had to commit, or what were your thoughts around that had you go ahead regardless?
No. I mean, I made a conscious decision in October, November 2020 that I was going to launch a business, and it would have been launched in the first couple of quarters of this year, when we didn't know then that we would still be in a pandemic.
Sure, yeah.
Now. Yeah. We didn't know until December that the vaccine was available. So, but the thing is, if you're going to be a successful business, you can launch a business at any time. Some of the best times to launch businesses are in recessions. Obviously, you can't say whether you can launch a successful business in a pandemic, because we've not had one before. But successful business quite often launched in recessions. And obviously, the business place is changing. The working environment is changing. The pandemic has led things to change. So a lot of people are maybe not going to go back and work for companies anymore. Maybe going to work for themselves. Maybe going to work from home. The whole office work environment is changing, and so I thought that would be a massive opportunity. And as I've already mentioned, the technology side of it is also going to be an opportunity. So no, I've got no fears. We did delay the opening of the actual shop itself until the 17th of May, which was one of the sort of the steps along the road, the government road, so that we could ease the restrictions very slightly. But we're COVID secure. We've got everything. We're complying with all the regulations that we need to. So no, it didn't really hold any fears for me at all.
And I think, as we touched on earlier, you've shared that you've been successful. I don't know whether that means you're on track or not on track, but it sounds like you're going in the right direction. Is that the case? Because I think you've gained quite a few clients in a relatively short space of time, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean the business model was with tax system. Their preparation and of you is absolutely immense, really, and they insist that you do a 5-year business plan. So obviously I've got something to go for that. The initial 5-year business plan had me in an office, a serviced office for 6 months, and then a shop. But I sort of made things move a bit more quickly than that. So we moved straight into a shop. We didn't really have a serviced office at all. So I'm a little bit further along the journey. Yeah, at the end of the first 12 months, I was meant to have, I think it was 68 clients, and a fee bank of round about 50,000 or so. I've already got 55 of those clients in the first 3 months, and we're running a fee bank around about 25,000 at the moment. So we're well ahead. And it's not just about the client numbers; it's about getting the the penetration into the local community as well, and becoming part of that. So we're becoming known within the town already. And I've got team members with me. I'm not a one-man band or anything like that. I've got a full-time receptionist and a full-time client manager with me already. So I've accelerated the business plan. So yeah, I'm achieving all the objectives that I want to achieve on schedule at the moment, and there's no reason why that should change.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. As we mentioned, we're in a pandemic. That's been people's biggest challenge over the last sort of like 16 months or so. Outside of that, I know it might not apply to this business because you've started it with inside the last 16 months. But historically, in your business life, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced as a business owner?
The challenge, well, the biggest challenge I faced was probably in April 2009, when I was running my own business, been running my own business for 3 years, and it expanded fairly rapidly. We've got 3 advisors, we've got a separate wealth management company, a separate mortgage company. I think we were 13 team members in total. And our businesses got struck by lightning and burnt to the ground. Well, weren't burnt.
Wow, okay.
They were destroyed by water that the fire service pumped into the building to try and stop the fire. So overnight, literally, my business premises were no more. I've got to find somewhere to house these 13 team members and get everything set up. But I'm pleased to say that obviously with the support of the team and support of the firms I was with at the time, we were up and running within 24 hours, and most clients didn't even know that we'd had a disaster at all. So that was probably the biggest challenge, and that made me look at the business that I'd built over the last 3 years, and then I made the decisions to maybe that I built something as far as I could, and the challenge then was to make it into a business that was leaner, better structured, more profitable. So that I started then looking around for a firm to merge with, because I was spending a lot of time in running the business and not spending enough time with clients. And the bit that I always loved the most was the face-to-face meeting with clients. So that was probably my biggest challenge. I mean, obviously, every time you start a new business, it's a challenge. But rescuing a business from the face of adversity is probably the biggest challenge I've had.
Absolutely, that's quite a challenge to face. Has to be said. So, what's been the best bit so far? Would you say since you've started this new venture?
I think, well, I still get out of bed every morning. I've still got a buzz. There's still I think I've been very fortunate in the team members that I've managed to recruit. That's probably been one of the best things. You know, it's hard to do this sort of thing all on your own. You know, when you're running a business, you can't do everything. So I very quickly realised I needed the right team around me, which I got so far. And I also realised that you've got to outsource. I outsourced a lot of things in previous businesses, and I'm a big believer in letting experts do what they do, let them get on with it, pay them a fee for doing it, and just concentrate on exactly what you're good at. So yeah, it's that's been the most pleasing aspect, that I can actually go home in the evening and I'm not having to work in the evening. I'm not having to work at weekends. It's I'm working on the business rather than actually in it. That's that was always the main driver, and will continue to be so.
Okay, excellent. Well, you've agreed to share some of your knowledge with us, so I'm going to put you in solo mode and hand over the screen to you for a couple of minutes, and so you can educate us. So the floor is yours, Paul.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned previously, Paul, we do a lot of business with property landlords and people that own holiday properties. It's become a bit of a specialist of mine. When I was an IFA, I did a lot of this sort of thing. So what I just wanted to just do was share with you very briefly some of the tax aspects of investing in property. A lot of people have got 1 or 2 properties nowadays. A lot of people are thinking about it. So I just want to very briefly go through some of the things, the things you should think about doing, the records you should keep, some of the common expenses you should be claiming for. What we do tend to find is that when we speak to people that have been doing their own tax return, their own books, they're missing a lot of expenditure. So that means they're paying more tax. Now, we're not in the business of making people avoid tax, but we will make sure that they pay the absolute minimum tax possible. So, first of all, record keeping, it's essential to keep accurate and up-to-date records. And for income tax purposes, all accounts must be prepared to the 5th of April every year. So no matter when you started renting out your property, you must always keep with the 5th of April. Unlike businesses, whereby you can determine what your year end is, you have to use the 5th of April. So that's the first little tip. Next thing is that if you own overseas properties and furnished holiday lettings, you must keep them separate. You can't sort of aggregate them together. And also be very, very careful about properties that you're letting to a family member at less than market rate. You've got to be very careful about that. Income, you should always show your rental income, gross of any fees or expenses such as agent fees, and then the agent fee should be an expense. Deposits that you've had when you start the tenancy, they shouldn't be included as an income. A lot of people do, they include them as an income. We don't need to include them as an income. They should be deferred and then matched with the cost of providing the services or carrying out repairs. Husbands and wives, where husbands and wives own property, this is another common mistake that a lot of people make. If you're a husband and wife are owning a property, the Inland Revenue will, or HMRC, will deem that it's a 50-50 split, unless an election is made by Form 17. So I come across a lot of clients whereby, because one of them has a lower tax burden, there's a basic rate instead of a higher rate, they shovel the income onto that. Well, that's okay as long as you've got it approved by HMRC by filling in the necessary form. So that's another little trap that people fall into. Common expenses, you can only use expenses that have been wholly and exclusively for business purposes and not be of a capital nature. So that's something that people figure about. As far as common expenses go, a lot of people don't claim mileage for visiting the property or an allowance for doing their books from home. So that's something we pick up on quite a lot. You're also allowed something called pre-trading expenditure, which is incurred within 7 years before the date the rental business is started. So you should always be keeping records when you're looking at purchasing the property as well as when it's actually let out. Costs incurred, legal fees, costs incurred in acquiring, adding or selling the property are not capital. They are capital, they're normally capital. So you can't claim those as an expense against revenue. You have to wait until you sell the property. There's been lots of changes on mortgage interest over the years now, and the only basic relief is available for mortgage interest from April 2020, and that's catching a lot of people out. The other thing that people sometimes claim for is life insurance. You can expenditure related to life insurance policies on business loans, mortgages, not wholly and exclusively for the purpose of the business, so you shouldn't really claim that. It's not normally an allowable deduction. Travel, where businesses registered from administered from an office or outside the landlord's home, travel is not permitted. But if you're running the business from home and you have to travel to your property, then that is permitted. There's lots and lots and lots of discrepancies around repairs and capital expenditure, and that's something you need to look at very, very carefully. Repairs common repairs are stone cleaning, damp and rot treatment, mending broken windows, but capital expenditure will be putting brand new windows in and new bathrooms and things when you're actually improving the property. Replacing items, if for instance you've got a holiday let and it's fully furnished, which most of them are, then the cost of replacing furniture can be claimed as well. A lot of people ask me whether there should be a sole trade or a limited company. Again, that's a massive area. Not normally a good idea to have a limited company just for one property, but if you're building a property portfolio, definitely worth thinking about going down the limited company route. So I think that's about my 4 or 5 minutes up. There's lots more to cover, but what I would say is that if you've got any questions, seek out your local tax assist accountant, and we'll be able to help you out. That's me done, Paul. Was that about 4 minutes?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Paul. A lot of stuff in there, a lot of useful stuff. So final thing from me to you then is if you were to give just one tip to any other business owner out there based on your business journey and your experience, what would that one tip be?
The one I always use when I'm asked this question is treat everybody like you'd expect to be treated yourself. And that goes across whether you're dealing with your customers or your clients or your suppliers. Just always think, how would I want to be treated if I was in that position? And that's a mantra that I've always used in the whole of my business life. And I always treat everybody the way that I want to be treated myself. I treat most people as equals as well. So nobody is better than me or worse than me. We're all equals. We'll come into this world the same way. We all go out the same way, or one or two ways. So yeah, treat everybody as you expect to be treated yourself.
All right, that's excellent. Thanks for your time today, Paul. Your ordeal is over. You crammed quite a lot in there. It's interesting to find out how you came to be with Tax Assist today, and the tips you share were really useful as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Paul.